What's going on, everyone? Welcome back to the channel. For everyone new, I'm Mike, owner operator of Tri-County Masonry and Excavating, and today we are going to talk about 5 things you need to know about purchasing a used piece of equipment. A used excavator is what we're talking about today, and you could use these tips on basically anything in the heavy equipment industry. You know, they all have these components on all different size machines, but again, today we're talking about a KOBELCO excavator and 5 things you need to know before you purchase a used piece of equipment. So let's start out with the first one. That's the most obvious one that you want to check when buying a used piece. Go to my notes, bear with me. So here's my 5 things. These are the first things. 1 is your undercarriage, 2 is your engine, 3 is your final drives, 4 swing motor, and 5 swivel motor. All excavators have all these components, and let's just go over them right now and real quick and show you exactly where they are on the machine, because a lot of people... All right, guys, first on the list we got the undercarriage, and that's the lower substructure. These are all wear items that can be replaced. You start in the back, you got sprockets, you got rollers on the top, you got rollers on the bottom, and you got idler wheels in the front. So starting in the back, you want to look at your sprockets. Make sure these aren't right to a point. If they're right to a point, things are starting to get wore out, you can replace them by just doing this, but these are things you want to look for. You got rollers right here, top rollers. Some little machines just have 1 roller and less rollers on the bottom. The bigger the machines, the more rollers. So you just want to make sure these are nice and smooth, not wore out. Don't make excessive noise when you track and squeak, because there's oil in these, and bearings. You could actually lift the machine up and let the tracks hang down and roll these bottom ones, and they'll roll. And if they're loose, like clanking, the bearings are shot and they're wore out. But they'll actually spin in your hand. The chains that we're looking at, your track chains right here, make sure there's no sharp wearing through on the bushings. They should be nice and smooth, round. If they're looking like this, they're wore out. They should be round. They're round when they're brand new, so the more flat spots I get in them, the more they're wore. And this is what causes that. By tracking, they go around, and these track chains right here go inside here, and that's what flattens them out. You'll want to look at your pads, make sure there's none that are loose and moving, and you can jump up and down on the machine when you walk on it, and you'll feel them if they're loose. Your front idler, you want to make, this also has oil in it and a bearing. You want to make sure when you're tracking, this thing's not flopping back and forth, no squeaking, and make sure it's not out. If it's your track idler is super far out, that means your chains are stretched, and it's time to replace them. So there's just some quick tips on the undercarriage that you want to look for when you're looking at a used piece of equipment. Second thing on the list, we got our engine. Let's fire up the machine and go up on top. Climbing up on top. On the startup, you want to look at the exhaust, make sure there's not excessive smoke coming out. But on the engine, first glance, you want to make sure there's no leaks. Obvious. But the main thing I do when I look at a piece is open up the oil compartment. Make sure that there's no blow-by. If there's oil spitting out of here, like excessive oil or air, then your engine is got blow-by. Another one is if you open this and oil's coming up out of that tube, you got excessive blow-by. And I've seen that before. So that's the main things I check on an engine. That's basic and easy, super easy. All right, third thing on the list, final drives. So easy, quick way to check the final drive is you got an Allen key here, an Allen These are all Allen. So basically all I would do is, and some of these are just, they're all different sizes on different machines. But basically, make sure this is up because your oil is always halfway. It's always halfway right here, okay? Just go to the top plug, pull this plug, it has a magnet on it. Look to see, what you're looking for is if there's metal filings, A, or if there's oil on it. Some machines are so bone dry, there's no oil on it. If you don't see wet oil on that plug, just walk away because it gets real expensive fast. These are a major component in the undercarriage, and what will happen is you will need a final drive if this thing has no oil in it, but and if that also has metal in it. So as people know that follow my channel, I just had a dozer with the same issue. I bought that dozer sight unseen, so I could not check that, and I did get burnt on that. But you know, it's the gamble you take, I guess. So again, final drive, check the oil, check for filings, make sure it has oil in it. Simple, easy check. Do that on both sides. There's final drive on both sides. All right, number 4 is your swing motor. Up in here in the center compartment, we want to look at your swing motor. It's this big motor in the center here. There's a dip sticker on her. Make sure she has oil in her and to the mark, just like that. You want to make sure it's not white in there. If it's white, it's got water in it, which it could get water in it because this is all out in the open, and you know, you get leaves and debris in there, and then the seals go bad and it can fill with water on the upper section or whatnot. But just make sure there's no water in it, and make sure that there's oil in it. Simple, easy check. On to the last but not least is your swivel motor, number 5. But a lot of people don't even know what a swivel motor is. Well, a swivel motor is this little motor down in the bottom, okay? And a lot of people mistake it for your swing motor when they see oil in the lower section down here. So swivel motor is in here. It drops down in, it's the gear. It's like a gyro on a bicycle. It allows this thing to spin around just like handlebars on a bicycle and not mess up all the lines below. So there's lines going down in, and all those lines got to go to your final drives, and you could spin this thing around 1,000 times. It doesn't affect it because that's a cylinder in there, and it has many seals, and it puts all the fluid in different directions. But needless to say, when they go bad, you will see hydraulic oil coming out this seal, and this, you always see drips all right here. A lot of people think that's a swing motor leaking, but it's the swivel, and that will fill this whole ring gear up and start leaking out. And there's a way to check that, and that is go underneath. Let's go underneath. See all the lines here? That's so they don't get tangled up, like I said, when you spin around. So let me find you here. There is a cap, a bolt with a cover. Hang on, just bear with me. I gotta get under here. So that's your swing motor right there, where all those lines are coming out, and they showed you up above. There's a cap with 2 bolts with a cover. Pull that cover up there. You can see it. I can't see it because I can't see it under there to point to it, but there's a cover. Pull that cover. It's just going to be 2 bolts in this area, and mine is right here. 2 bolts. Okay, you pull that cover, and it's the same cover up here. I'll show you. Not the same exact, it's the same looking cover, but it's not the same cover itself. So you pull that cover. If hydraulic oil or water comes out of there, they do tend to get a little bit of water in there, but if there's hydraulic oil in there, your swivel's leaking. And how it leaks is internal seals, so you have to take that swivel out. And if there's water in there, it's just a seal around this structure that could be replaced or caulked, and that will keep all your water out from getting in there. You don't want no water. All right, so here's the rubber boot. You see that rubber boot and the screws up around it. You pull that ring, and you can put a little caulk under there if that rubber boot has a crack in it. The little football shaped cover is right there, 2 bolts. Pull that cover, and then you can look down inside there too. And if that's not packed with grease, then that's another thing. You'll see big white clumps of grease if there's water in there. But make sure that that slew ring has grease, and that same cover is the cover that was underneath that I was trying to point to for you. So if you pull that bottom cover and water comes out of there, water's not a huge deal. You just want to make sure there's not hydraulic oil coming out, because it will get moisture in there. Other random things that are replaceable that aren't a huge deal because it can be rebuilt are all your seals. Any type of machine 4,000 hours plus is gonna, and they haven't been replaced, will start weeping. You'll see oil here. You'll see oil. If this one's leaking, there's always oil drips on this bucket. You'll see I've already repacked these, so, but on every ram, just check them. You know, it can be expensive if you don't do it yourself. Other things that are not on the list that are easy to check, obviously your hydraulic compartment, make sure there's no leaks and excessive noise when running the machine, big huge squealing noises and whatnot, or lugging the machine down and blowing excessive black smoke out of the exhaust pipe. So you just got to use common sense on that. If there was tons of oil down here, or you're come look at the machine and there's oil right below it on the ground, there's some red flags. Make sure all your hydraulic oils are up to par on the levels, and you go around to the other compartments and just look at everything in here too, you know. Make sure your radiators aren't plugged right off, that someone took care of it and cleaned everything, and that's what you are looking for. Just any kind of leaks or damages that will cost you money when you purchase it. But again, these were the 5 easy signs to look for when you go to purchase a used machine. Again, number 1 is your undercarriage, number 2 is your engine, 3 final drives, 4 your swing motor, and 5 your swivel motor. That's your major components that cost the most on these machines. Obviously in the bucket linkage and whatnot and all this stuff, you want to check also your pins, but again, that's all replaceable items. That's not super expensive if you're going to spend the money on a machine, you know. So it all depends on hours and abuse too. So hopefully you guys got something out of this, and like I said, 5 things you need to know before you purchase a used machine. All right guys, please like, share, subscribe, and hit that bell notification. Thanks, take care.